Hi guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm. And if you guys been following the series, what we did in the previous episode is that we have now successfully set up our username. So if I type my username here, it's gonna send that, it's gonna clear the field, and the next time we type some message, we will actually start to register, and we're gonna be able now to send a message. Right, so just for testing to make sure this thing is actually working properly, instead of saying it works, what we are going to do is that we're gonna get our we're gonna actually just call the API message, and we are gonna just put this here, put it on right now. Now I'm just gonna make up some names in here. I'm just gonna make something quickly. I'm just gonna put username test. The message is coming from here, so I can plug the message straight away right now. Timestamp, I'm just gonna leave it in blank. Actually, I'm just gonna put some random value just to see if our message works. So now if I type Mario, send, and then I can actually send messages in there. As you can see, it kind of works. We do need to protect this so we don't accidentally send empty messages. So what we're gonna do here is this will start to get really messy, so let's just work out. So what I'm gonna do here, first of all, select this, right click, I'm gonna create a macro, and I'm gonna call this get timestamp. Right, and what this is gonna do is basically we're gonna compact all that stuff into just a little node here, so we can use that to just make sure this is less bloated, right? Now, the next thing we're gonna do here is I also gonna do a branch, and in here, if it's greater or equal than 3, we can send a message. Otherwise, we're gonna copy this information here, gonna paste it in there, and I'm just gonna plug it in here. And that basically what's going to do is that it's gonna display a message saying please add a valid message, and we're gonna plug this output into that part. Right, and now let me just do some cleaning up here. Just gonna put this stuff right there. Here is just let's just search this for error message. Let's just comment that, and I'm just gonna put this like a red color, just so we know what's an error message. And let me just clean this up. A lot of this is just tidying up and make sure it's easy for you to follow the code. So I'm gonna just do a quickly thing here, just so it's easy for us to know what we're trying to do here in the future. Right, so now that we have the error message, everything is a little bit cleaner. And already treating that message, let's check if that works properly. So if you press enter, send, I type Mario, send again. It's gonna say please type a valid message, and I'm just gonna type a valid message, press send, and it's gonna send a message. It didn't send a message there, that's because we're not making any array here, but that's fine. Alright, so now we actually have the whole logic in here, or the whole base to proper actually do requests to our server and actually start replicating all this stuff, and sending messages to the users and all that stuff. Right, so what I'm gonna be doing here is I'm gonna go back to our chat system here, right? And in here I think we can get game instance. Yes, we can get the game instance, and then we can cast it. Right, so what I'm gonna do here, when we start the system, I'm gonna get the game instance, and I am gonna just cast to GM, and actually our game instance is called, let's double check here. Yes, the game character, that's how we call it here. Yes, game mode. So we're gonna get game instance and cast to, I think, game or get game mode. Yes, it's the game mode that we actually need. Yes, returns the current game mode. Yes, such as on from the client. That's the one we're gonna cast to the system. Here, we want to create here a reference. So we're gonna call the GM instance. Or in our case, is game mode instance. Now, I think that's more readable. Now, the only thing that we want to do here is that on the game instance, I'm just going to create here a quickly thing. We're going to create a custom event. I'm going to call API add message, and this is going to be on the server. For now, I'm going to execute this as a multicast. So it's going to do a quick printing here. Now I'm just going to change this to red color. Let's test if you can actually, if our component is actually calling the right thing that we need. Now, once we call it, we're going to create this. And let's check if this is going to work. So if I press play, we have a server saying hello. Now, if I press play with 2 clients, probably the other one's not going to work. As you can see, I only have that thing coming once, right? And the problem with that is because this is running on a custom event, this is running on the server, right? So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to call this guy, I think on the player controller, yeah, we can call, I think we can just make sure that this is replicated, make sure that replicates. And all we need to do here is, let me double check what happened if I'm playing with 2 people. I just want to make sure that is the server that's sending the request. So as you can see, the server and the client sending the request. That will be fine. And now we got the client reference here. Yeah, so that's fine. So all we done here is that we just start the game mode, create the, based on the character system. Actually, it's not character system. This should be called chat system. I just mistyped that. So it's going to be chat system. And now we have the rest of the reference for the chat system here. Right, so now what we're going to do here is that we're going to create the logic to add the message, right? So the first thing we need to do, we already have created the method. Now we need the input and we need the message, right? And this is going to be st chat message. And what I'm going to do here, this was going to run on the server. So I'm going to copy and paste. And I'm going to call this API add message multicast. Right. So we're going to have the message here. So all we're going to do here is make sure this is set to multicast and is reliable. And when we call this, we're going to plug this one right now. Put it like this. And now I'm going to just do a print. I'm going to break this stuff and I'm just going to display my username for now. And this is going to be, let's say, yellow color, and compile and save. Right, so this is all in place, which is really, really good. Now, as you can see, this must be called on the server, right? This guy here must be called on the server. So what we can do is when we send a message from our system here, what is it, the chat system, yes, the chat box here, what we can actually do now is that we can get the parent widget, we can get the component, and all we can do here is get the game mode instance. And from here, we should be able to call the API, add a message on the server. Now, I am not 100% sure if this is gonna work. We probably need to call something else first, but let's just test it if this will work properly. Right. Right, so now what we do is that we're gonna break this stuff. Actually gonna make a new one. Let's just give some space here so it's easy for us to follow this stuff. Cool. So what we're doing here is that we got the game mode instance, we get a message, and we're gonna get the chat settings. You guys remember, if I break this, I already have access to the player settings. So we have access to the ID and we have also access to the user message, right? Now we need to put here the message here. And the timestamp we can just literally call this. We just get that here, plug it in there. And let's see what is going to happen. Right now, if I press play, and say Mario GGT, whatever, press send, and then I send a message. We have the server saying a message, but I think now I don't see anything coming from this player. Let me check if that works. As you can see, it's just it's not happening. It's not sending the message on that. This is because it's trying to access game instance, and the game instance is just non-existent on our client. So what we need to do here is we need to make sure that the game instance on here is actually being set. So what we can actually do is when we try to send a message on here on the chat box, let me just clean up this a little bit. This is getting very messy, but we can always clean this in a second. So I'm just gonna want to make sure that we have an instance here that's valid. So I'm just gonna do a print quickly, and I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna plug it right here. This is just for testing. I'm gonna clean up this. I want to make sure the instance is valid, so I'm just gonna call is valid. Oh, actually here is valid. I'm gonna plug it in there, and let's see if, yeah, so the client one, so this should be always be valid. So press send. As you can see, it say true, but on here, if I press here and press send, it says false. So the game instance is not being set on the client. So to fix that, probably gonna need something maybe a little bit more complex, I would say, but on the game here, so if I go open up here the player controller, let me just open up my player controller chat system here. Now what we can actually do here is that we have the begin play event, right? And if I'm not mistaken, the begin play event, it always runs on a client, I suppose, or on server. Yeah, as you can see, it runs on the server. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna create here a custom event, and we're gonna call start widget, and I'm gonna make sure this runs first on the client, and then this is gonna call another custom event that will run start widget on the server. On the server. Let me just do that here. and I'm just gonna make sure this is reliable. And then I'm gonna create another one that I wanna make sure it runs on the multicast. Probably doesn't need to be that complicated, but we just wanted to make sure that it runs both on client and on server. So they're all synced and they all have the variable that we can actually use to do all that stuff. So we're gonna run that stuff here. Nice, so let's see if the flow works properly. So we're gonna call start widget. Start widget runs on the client. Then the client will call the server. The server is reliable, which means it's gonna call the multicast, which is gonna run both on client and server. So if I do a print and I say something like that, banana, whatever. So that runs on the server and on the client, right? The only reason why the first one doesn't run that is because that one is the server and is the client at the same time. So it's just a really complicated thing. Right, so right now, for the client number 1, we should be able to type our chat here, and we should be able to have, we don't have a game client ID because that's running on the server. Let me just double check. This must be replicated, and I suppose that's fine. Let me double check here. So if I press enter, press here and press again, that's still returning false. So what we can actually do then on that case is just try to see if you can get the game instance in here. So I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna get game actually mode. I'm gonna plug the game mode right there, and let's see if we can actually see something coming up. So I'm gonna type here client 0. That's because the client, it doesn't have that information being set. Let me see if I can actually find a better way of doing that. Hi guys, yeah, so just resuming here the thing that I was trying to do. Basically, the problem that we had here is that we're trying to call the game mode that only exists on the server through the client. So we had a little issue here. So this code here is not gonna work the way we exactly wanted to. So what I did here is on our chat box, I have created a new method called add message server client. This is not yet full completed. I was just testing some things. And what this method does is basically going to call event on the client that will replicate on the server. Then there we're going to be able to add the message on our server. The reason why we're doing this is because I forgot, but the game mode only exists on our server. It doesn't exist on the client. So the only way we can access that is through our client. Right, so the next thing you're going to need to do here is we're just going to need to copy this code here, delete it from that, paste it in here, and before you cast it, the only thing you need to do here is just gonna make sure is a valid code. So if it's not valid, then yeah, we want to cast it, but if it's valid, then we want to do stuff. So right now I'm just gonna do a print, and I'm just gonna basically put the node here just so we can actually get our game mode instance, and we're gonna display the name of the instance here. So for now, if I press play, and I'm doing this on the other client, which is the other guy here. So if I press enter, I say something like my name, press send, now press send again. As you can see, they are both able now to basically, let's say, communicate between all the clients. Right, so the next step that we're gonna do here before we can actually finish is first we're gonna actually require a parameter which is going to be the message itself, and it's gonna be st message or st chat. and that's gonna be a chat message. We also gonna add that here, which is really good. Gonna plug that here. Now we have the chat there. So how we're gonna do here? I'm just gonna align this stuff properly. Nice. So now on our game instance, on the chat system here, you already have something here that already had the message for us, right? And all we're gonna do here, and remember, this only exists on the client, or actually, the game server only exists on the server itself. So anything you try to run on the client, it doesn't work here. So what we're gonna have to do is that we're gonna add the message, and we're gonna also then here we're gonna replicate that we have added that message and basically send an event callback to all the other players saying, here is the new message, please display to real character, and we're gonna do that. Right, so we're gonna go back to our chat system here. We're gonna get our instance, and we're gonna call this add event server thing. And in here we are gonna add this stuff right there. Cool. Put that done. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna call this add message to the server right now. Cool. Compile and save. And if we have done everything correctly, we shouldn't be able to see any messages yet, but we should be able to see the username that is sending the message, right? So let's say that here I have user 01, and in here I have the user 02. Now user 02 is gonna say hello, and we're gonna send the message, and that is empty. And if I send something with this guy, they also send as empty. That's probably because on here we are not passing the message. That's why. So I'm just gonna delete that stuff. We don't need this. This is because we are sending a blank message. Let me just rewire all the stuff here. I know this is getting very like spaghetti code. This is not looking good for now, but just for the purpose of demonstration, that should be fine. What we can also do here as well is that we could probably create a pure function that they only accept one parameter and does all this stuff. But for now, let's just leave it like this. We can probably focus doing a refactor in the future. Right, so now I have user 1. I'm gonna say user 01. I'm gonna say Mario, whatever. So user 01, send a message. Now if I come back in here and I say, you know what, my name is I don't know, user 02, and I'm gonna press enter. I'm gonna say my message and press send, and as you can see, it got replicated by both clients. Of course, that we still can't see the message coming up. We don't see anything interacting with the UI, but that's because right now on here we are able to, right now, forget about this method. We don't need this because everything runs on the client. But what we're going to be able to do is just basically get all our player controllers and basically throw a message and say, yes, please replicate and check out the users, and replicate the UI and do all that stuff. So yeah, once again guys, thank you very much for watching. I know this one got a little bit confusing at some points, but the reason why is because it's just when you're playing with replications and clienting and all that stuff, you need to know that you're sending a message from the player client to the server, and you need to find a way to replicate this. So what we're going to be doing in the next video is that we're going to be looking at how we can actually replicate that message through all the other clients. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I see you guys in the next one.